Hi, I'm Max Tucci. I always wanted to do a show where I could introduce you to celebrities, newsmakers, and everyday people. Whichever they may be, they are all an inspiration. Today, I'm going to sit down with the Gladesman, a family man, a businessman, a philanthropist, and a friend to the Everglades, Alligator Ron Bergeron. So here we are with Alligator Ron Bergeron. First of all, how did you get the name?
Well, my grandfather taught me how to wrestle alligators when I was a very young boy, and which is a culture of Florida.
Right.
You know, 100 years ago, in every little town was an alligator wrestling team, and you know, like running with the bulls in Spain. Mm-hmm. So I guess wrestling alligators over the last 50 years, and I got in a bad accident a few years ago, and it kind of, the Alligator Ron really kicked in, I guess.
And then you lost a finger, I heard.
Well,
I haven't seen yet, so.
Well, I've lost multiple fingers.
Okay.
Actually, that particular accident bit one of my fingers off, put 150 stitches in my hand. And then, of course, I lost other fingers in rodeos through amputations in the roping events.
Was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's all worth it, right?
Yeah, and it's amazing with technology, they were able to sew them all back on but one. So
just one?
Yeah, just one.
All right.
But it's, no, I love the culture of the Gladesman, the swamp man, and obviously I love the rodeo culture that I grew up in.
Yeah, I want to talk about your childhood because you are 8 generations here in South Florida, and it's really incredible to meet someone that's from here, because they say you never meet anyone from Florida, and here we are.
Yeah.
How was your childhood growing up here? Because you've seen it all. So how was it to see nothing and then all of a sudden to see everything?
Well, it is very, very interesting. Actually, my family entered into Florida in the middle 1800s. Great grandmother, and 8 generations, and I was raised in, you know, the old Florida cracker culture.
Describe cracker, because I think that word, a lot of people don't understand exactly what it means. It's got different connotations. So what does the word for you mean?
You're absolutely right, because sometimes people look at you a little strange when you say cracker. To me, I'm proud to be a cracker, because a cracker to me is an old pioneer family that was raised in the cowboy culture, because the first cowboy in America originated in Florida, and he was called a cow hunter. Okay. And that's how the cracker come about, as they went into the swamps to bring all these wild cattle in that had multiplied by the millions, because 500 years ago, when the Spaniards landed on the west coast of Florida, they interfaced with the Calusa Indians. There was a big battle, and the cows and the horses got loose. They entered into the Everglades and acclimated to the environment and multiplied by the millions. So Florida had the first cow and the first horse and the first cowboy. So the cracker name come around because families come in to round these cattle up, and as they rounded them up out of the swamps and coming through the towns, they were cracking their whips, so they called them crackers. So some people think that's a bad name, but I really don't relate it to that. I relate it to the old cow hunters.
To what's authentic to you.
Yeah.
There's an authenticity to it.
Oh, absolutely.
How great. It's a little bit of history for
me. It is great.
Now, you, $235.12 is what you had in your pocket. And then what happened after you took that money and decided to grow up?
Well, I left home at 18 years old, and I was working at a gas station in Davie, cowboy town, which I was raised in, and one day my Boy Scout master come in and asked me where I was living. I told him in the old room. He said, well, I've got an old cracker house, on a coconut plantation. You maintain that coconut plantation and you can live there free. And I said, yes, sir. And so I went down there, and basically my neighbors asked me if I'd mow their pastures. And so I asked for permission. It was given. And I started mowing pastures day and night. And
with a 1943 Ford tractor.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the same year I was born. And I can remember paying less than, I think I paid about $300 for it.
Both built in America.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's important. But what happened is that little business grew, and before you know it, within a couple of years, I had bought mini tractors, farm tractors, mainly agricultural work, before development started to move westbound out of Fort Lauderdale. But the interesting part of it is my grandfather was a game warden, and he threw me in that airboat, and there's 31 cities in Broward County. I've been across 25 of these cities in an airboat. The cities were not even there.
They didn't exist yet.
They did not exist.
What is your fondest memory of meeting your grandfather?
Well, I think the fondest memory is when he introduced me to the Everglades, one of the natural wonders of the whole world.
Of our world.
The whole world. Yeah. And, as a little boy, just sliding out through the marsh and seeing God's landscaping and the smell and the wildlife, the landscaping, the sunsets. And I'll never forget it. And today I'm a commissioner appointed by the governor over the Everglades and over the whole state of Florida for wildlife and fishing.
Your passion.
Yeah, my passion, and I'm just so honored to be able to make a difference to save the natural resources of Florida for future generations for many years to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're going to be right back on that note. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about the Everglades and your family.
Never sweat looking for your keys again. The Googlite. Visit googlite.com to learn more.
We service all makes and models 7 days a week.
We do it fast, we guarantee it, and we do it for less at Rick Case.
The Express Service Center at every Rick Case dealership handles everything from oil changes to tires to brakes and more. And we do it for less. Drive in any day. No appointment necessary. Our free multi-point safety inspection helps you keep your car running at its best. Plus, get your Rick Case rewards card for discount gas and free car washes anytime. That's the service advantage at every Rick Case dealership.
There's a great quote that you said, and I'm going to quote you here. It says, "With all the success, I've been able to maintain who I am. I've never traded in my airboats for yachts or my rodeo horses for thoroughbreds. I'm still the guy I was before this journey, just one of those guys." What keeps you grounded?
Number one, I had great parents that really taught me important things. Number one, you can't buy respect, you got to earn it. Number two, be responsible. Number three, be kind, because kindness is free. And so when you have good parents and good grandparents, And there were many other mentors in my life. My old football coach that brought us to state championships in the Orange Bowl because of discipline and determination. And even a gentleman that is 95 today, his name is Mort Kalin. He was in the last regiment of the mounted cavalry that went to war on a horse. Wow. And he's 95 still today. That gave me one of my first opportunities.
What was that opportunity?
Well, interesting enough, he was building a city. And I read it in the newspaper. I was 22 years old. And so I went to see him. And I walked in his office and I said, I've read in the paper, sir, you're building a city in Pembroke Lakes, 3,000 acres development, and I want to build it for you. He said, okay, son, how much equipment you got? And I said, well, I got one bulldozer and a dump truck.
That's all you need. It's a start.
Well, he looked at me like, come on now. And what he said is, listen, I'm not building a driveway. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And of course I was very depressed over that. And as I'm walking out, he recognized one of my rodeo buckles, and he said, you're a cowboy. I said, yeah, I rodeo professionally, and got a ranch, horses. And we got into a conversation about him being in the last regiment of the mounted cavalry that went to war on a horse. And his dad had 3,000 horses outside New York, and he would rotate them into New York to pull the milk wagons. So this conversation went on for about an hour, and I went to walk out, and he turned and said, I'm gonna give you a chance. And I built his city. Took me 15 years. All his golf courses, all his lakes, all his sewer, water, drainage, and pavement. And that man trusted me, and at the end of that 15-year relationship, we're still best friends today. And that was somewhere around 40 years ago.
Why do you believe you were the one that was to be in the position you are right now?
Well, I will say this. I think my personality and my drive, my determination, and disciplines. I get up every morning and work out like I'm going to the Olympics because the most important thing is good health.
Good health.
I go to work to be the best businessman with every cell in my body. And then I go home to be a good dad. And when I go to a rodeo, I go there to kick your butt. So I'm a very, I'd say, eccentric, you're very competitive. And one thing about business I will say, I believe, is learning how to do something just a little bit better than your competition.
Now, you're a big advocate for the sawgrass. And a lot of people, especially in South Florida, on the east side, think of the sawgrass as just outlets and shopping, and really they don't know the culture and the necessity of why this wonder of the world exists. Again, a great quote. If we can send a man to the moon, we should be able to save one of the natural wonders of the world. Really, I think this conversation is so important because you have such knowledge of the Everglades. And I absolutely believe in my core that when we learn, we have to teach. And since you've been a child, you've experienced a lot of this wonder of the world. Why is it so important? And what can we do as a community to keep it thriving? Because we're destroying it.
Well, you're absolutely right. And a lot of the destruction of the Everglades started back in, most of it, 90% of it, not all of it, in the late 40s. And when our forefathers drew a line and said we're going to drain half the Everglades and we're going to save this half. And then they compartmentalized the system. Everglades restoration is to decompartmentalize the system and quality of water below 10 parts per billion. Okay, and those are two great things. And I truly believe that we can succeed with the largest restoration in the history of the whole world. Now, why am I so passionate about it? I would say that because I grew up in it with a grandfather that introduced me to the God's creation. You know, and I always say that if there's any heaven on earth, it's got to be what God created.
What do you think the biggest misconception is that people have of you?
Well, you know, it's funny when people become, let's say, extremely successful from an entrepreneur side. You know what I mean? Sometimes people look at you like, you know, first of all, how'd you do all that? And which simple to me is I work hard and I'm very disciplined. You know, because when I was 18 years old, I went into business with $200. When I'm 25, I'm a multimillionaire and I have 150 people working for me in 7 years. But I lived in a house trailer for another 15 years.
Wow.
And all my friends said, well, why are you living in this little house trailer? Why aren't you building a big home? And why don't you have airplanes and yachts? And I said, well, because I like my little trailer and everything goes back into my business. Because when you have no safety net and you start with nothing, you can't live above your means. And that's one thing that I think young people today need to kind of keep a grip on. So I lived in this house trailer till I was 40 years old.
Wow.
Actually, the house on the hill up there is the only house I've ever owned. And really, I don't think I was ever trying to succeed in this world financially, all about what it could buy me for some reason. It was like a challenge more than, now, how fast could I spend money or what could I buy myself? And what was so interesting is what I thought as I developed as an entrepreneur, risk taker. As I kept getting older, I realized more and more that success is not all about how rich you are. I mean, it's nice to be financially stable, don't get me wrong, but you better have good health and you better have a good family and good friends and respect and relationships. And without respect and a reputation, you don't have nothing anyway. And so that comes, my reputation is more important than money. I can sure tell you that. Because if you don't have that, you don't have nothing anyway. So my advice to young people is, you know, when you start a little business, learn how to be a little bit better than your competition. Learn that. That's all it's all about. And be disciplined and live within your means. I mean, you look at this beautiful ranch here, okay? You see a pretty modest house sitting up there. Of course, got a nice saloon and wrote my own arena, but this land was, I bought out of a helicopter in the 70s.
Our new car 10-year warranties are legendary.
Now they're on used cars as well.
Yes, pre-owned vehicles at Rick Case now come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty with roadside assistance. That's 10 years from the date you buy it. Over 1,000 used cars, imports, and every domestic. Now with a 10-year, 100,000-mile nationwide warranty. Plus 10-year, 24-hour roadside assistance. All on sale this week with a Rick Case lowest payment, price, and a money-back guarantee. Finance plans for everyone, only at every Rick Case dealership.
now here we are again in this Alligator Ron saloon. What would Dorothy May say about this saloon?
Oh, she would have loved it, because this saloon was built for a purpose. And we use this saloon. We have somewhere between 12 and 20 charity events a year on our ranch. And the saloon is like a museum of the Everglades and of the old cracker cowboy culture. And I truly believe every cowboy should have his own saloon anyway. But we get to enjoy this and share our ranch with everybody. Everybody in the community. We have one event that's one of the largest attended charities in all of Florida, where there's thousands of people out here, called the Ranch Rome, for the Boys and Girls Club. We've had the homeless.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading over here. You've had so much going on with charities in general and with philanthropy and giving back, from the Boy Scouts of America to the Bergeron Rodeo Grounds to the Hispanic Unity to even Jacob's Shoes and also Calvary Chapel. And you is giving back something that you were taught, or do you believe that as unto much is given, much is expected?
No, I observed. I observed what my parents did. And my parents were not wealthy. They were hardworking people. But my mother would write a check for a certain amount of money, and they would budget it every year for the Red Cross and for other organizations that made the world better. And I just watched that, and with people that really didn't have much, and it taught me something. And you know, I think giving, when you're in a position to make the world better, to help the homeless, to help the poor, to help children that have no place to go, because both parents are working, I think that gives me great satisfaction.
What do you want your legacy to be?
The legacy, I would hope, and I tell my kids this too all the time, no matter how rich you are or how famous, you still put your pants on one leg at a time. And always be kind, and always give back. And I think if I can, God give me a certain amount of time on this beautiful earth, and if I can make a difference, if I can help save the Everglades, if I can help charities that make a difference in people's lives that's not as fortunate as I am, I would like to be known as a good guy. You know, because sometimes when you get into my territory, it's interesting how people can perceive.
It's all perception.
Yeah. Well, you know, some degree it in most cases perception, because I'm just as normal as anybody. I love life, and I try to mind my own business. I head out Friday afternoons, and I live out there with the alligators, and I love it.
Do you still ride in the rodeos?
I do. I actually won a championship last year, and I'm 70 years old.
How cool is that?
And it's rodeo. I rodeoed for 30 years, and you know, I did quite well. I made the state finals probably a dozen times, and actually I made the circuit finals, top 12 out of 9 states 5 times.
How cool.
and ended up in the World Finals in 1984, in the IRA World Finals, which was quite, I was very proud of myself due to the fact that I'm a businessman too.
But you take life to the max.
Oh, absolutely, bring it on. You know.
Do you remember
when you
your favorite
bite
horse?
into it, you better hang on, because
You better hang on.
Absolutely.
Do you remember who your favorite horse was?
Well, boy, I've had a lot of favorites. Probably on the heading side, because I headed for 20 years. Actually, in competing in the World Finals, I was competed for a header in the team rope, and the horse's name was Thirsty. And he's probably one of the best horses. A lot of the world champions, when they come into Florida, would want to mount up on my horses. I had some good horses. Actually, the horse I rope on today, the Heelan horse that I have, is one of the best I've ever had. His name is Chocolate. And but I love my horses, and I love the cowboy culture. And, you know, all my children, you know, it's been a wonderful family thing to load them all up and load the horses up and go to rodeos together. And my sons have roped, and my daughters barrel race, my grandkids barrel race, my daughters. You know, it's been kind of a really cultural family, and what a beautiful culture.
It
you
is.
know. And I'm so proud of the Bergeron Rodeo Grounds. Yeah, you know, that's quite an honor for our family, and I'm kind of, that's been one of my missions, is to make sure that the rodeo grounds is there forever. And fortunately, our city fathers put a deed restriction in the last couple of years for 99 years.
Okay.
And
Plus one.
yeah,
99 plus one.
well, 99 plus, it takes a supermajority to ever change it. So our future in Davie, Davie's different, and it has character. You know, our other cities are very beautiful, don't get me wrong. But Davie has a special cowboy culture. And I think we ought to be proud of that. And that's one of my commitments, is to preserve that. And you know, it's interesting, like I told you earlier, sometime when you're really, really successful, you know, it's interesting how people are just even seem a little nervous around you for some reason. But hell, we all put our pants on one leg at a time.
We're going to leave it just at that.
Yeah.
We all put our pants on
That's
one leg
for
at
sure.
a time. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Oh,
People.
it's been an honor to be with you, and long live the cowboy,
Long live the cowboy.
and long live the Everglades. Okay.
Long live Ron Bergeron.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye.